Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another fabulous episode of Business Coaching Secrets. Road Dog here with the man, the myth, the legend, Dr. Karl Bryan. Good morning, sir. You're out of surgery. I hope that your hands are washed, and I hope that all is well. How you feeling today, there, big fella?
Feeling fabulous. Dr. Karl Bryan. There we go. Shoots. What's that? Am I moving up the totem pole? Is that what's happening?
Well, you know, I've just got to cover all the angles, right? You know, attorney at law, doctor, whatever it is. When it comes to business coaching, you're like a bit of a surgeon, as I've been told. So there you go. So you just had a successful weekend, I got to say, in terms of the event, the big event that happened. You want to just share a little bit about that? I've got, because somebody wrote in, and I'm going to jump right into the first question because they attended. And by the way, they want to know your biggest takeaway. But before we go there, from Facebook, this is a little, in my eyes, crazy, but check this out. This person wrote in here and said, I've personally worked with Tony Robbins for 10 years and was a senior business strategist for the last 7. I've attended all of his courses many times over, and LPW makes Tony seem like a used car salesman. No offense, Tony. That's good. That's how good this training and content is. Thank you. Wow. Can you believe that?
Yeah, I know. I saw it. I got to tell you, and Tony Robbins, we both share a love, as is the person who wrote that, by the way, as he stated below. But yeah, tremendous honor, man. And we got some good resources. So what can you say? I've actually had another guy who he worked for Tony Robbins for about 10 years as well, and he wrote something very similar. So there you go. In that we're just not that used car salesman. Forget that. Just that. You know, from a pure business standpoint, if you're a business coach, you're a business consultant, or you're helping business owners, I do comfortably believe that we've got the best resources on the planet. And anything we don't have, I'm going to tell you we will have, because again, we're in this for the long haul. And excellence is the standard, my boy. So yeah, but very cool. I saw that obviously, and tremendous honor. Very cool.
So with that being said, like I said, somebody did write in and they wanted to know what was your one huge takeaway from the entire event. What would you say that is for you?
Number one takeaway. Well, look, I just say it was incredible. And for me personally, you know, just being honored, like nobody gets on our stage unless you're a client. That's the way it's always been since day one, and it will continue to be. You know, to have people like Marshall Silver as a client, and Davin Michaels, Harvard Jim, you know, he graduated from Harvard. NASA Jen, I call her. She's did marketing for NASA. Many of the Dan Kennedy Marketing Hall of Famers, Becky Auer, Nina Hirschberger, Chuck Trotman. You know, the reaction was insane. The speakers were insane, delivered at the highest level. So on that note, you know what I mean? That my biggest takeaway is just what an honor it was. If you were to push me and say I just say you got to deliver something awesome, and most importantly, something unique. Maybe I'll answer this differently. Like, let's say you ever gone to social media, you know, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you're at, and then you're like, why does this one picture or post go crazy and then another one doesn't, right? And that could be on your profile, on, you know, Tony Robbins's profile or whatever. Like, you ever wondered, like, how does that work, right? And if I go by what, you know, my questions that come to me, you know, with ridiculous consistency, this is something that everybody's asking. So if you were to break it down, I can tell you that there is a little bit of a formula behind it, and you can create posts and you can create content that will get ridiculously higher levels of engagement. So the question is, how do you do that? And then how do you create an event that kicks some butt? Also part of my takeaway, right? So here are 4 things. I'd encourage you to write these down if your goal is to, get some traction, get some attention, and do the same for your clients. Number 1 is rare. Okay, I'm going to create an acronym out of this, right? So follow the first letters. Number 2 is awesome, right? So just think awesome, valuable might be a better word, but let's go with awesome. Number 3 is difficult. Can others do it? Can others learn it? Are others able to compete with you or the post currently? And then the last one would be substitutable, right? So just think like one movie for the next. You might have an awesome movie, but at the end of the day, I could put on another one and it could be, almost equally as awesome, right? Or one book for the next, right? There's millions and millions and millions of books. Or maybe a better one is like exchanging a sport. Like you're going to watch tennis and then you switch channels and you end up on golf. They're substitutable, right? So let's just say okay, an example. So I go onto Facebook and let's say that I'm a good singer, which I most certainly am not. But let's pretend like I'm a good singer, right? So let's say rare, awesome, difficult, substitutable. So let's say rare, let's face it, really, let's assume this is I'm a good singer and I'm on there and I sound good, right? So I would say that very rare for me to go through my Facebook feed and see something that I would go, wow, and want to listen to somebody singing on my Facebook feed. So let's assume that's a 9, right? And then awesome / valuable. I don't know. Is that going to provide, if I'm watching, somebody sing on my Facebook feed, is this valuable? I'm going to give that, say, a 6, right? Is it difficult? Can others do it? Can they learn it? Can they compete? The answer is yes, but the reality is you're a good singer. You're not a good singer. I'm never going to, all of a sudden go to school and become a good singer, right? No one's going to correct the mess that I have got, right? For a vocal cords. So we'll give that a 7. And then substitutable, we'll give that a 4 because 4, these are out of 10, obviously, 4 out of 10. So if you take that, what did I just give that? It was 9, 6, 7, and 4, I think, right? So you add those up to do a quick little tally. That'll be 26. If I take 26 and I divide it by 4, I get 6.5, right? So basically the score, so go RADS, RADS, rare, awesome, difficult, substitutable. You got a 6.5 out of 10 for that post. But then let's assume you're flipping through your Facebook feed, Instagram, what have you, and then it's the Rolling Stones. Obviously the Rolling Stones, you don't need to, if you hear a Rolling Stones song, and even if you're not a fan, that it's Mick Jagger and the Boys, right? Or Rush, good old Canadian band, would fall into that. Guns N' Roses, U2, Madonna, Jay-Z, Rihanna. Just think, Justin Bieber be in there. When you go and you see that would be rare, to see Justin Bieber spitting a tune out on Facebook. Very rare. That's going to be let's give it a 9, right? Or that level. 10, valuable. See, the difference between somebody good singing and then the Rolling Stones and Justin Bieber is they will move you, right? So as far as valuable, you could you could give that a 10, right? Or maybe we give that a 9 and then give rare a 10, right? Whatever it's going to be. Difficult, could others do it? Again, that's going to be a 9 out of 10 because people can't sing the way the Rolling Stones can, right? And then as far as substitutable, again, let's give this a 9 or a 10. So when we go 9, 10, 9, 10 in the score, now basically we've got a 9.5 RAD score. That is a post that is going to go, really high on your engagement. If you want to create an event, or I've got a buddy who, he puts together TV, that he's the producer, right? He puts together TV shows. And he's we sat down, and he's talking about, if you wanted to do a TV show and we could talk about business coaching, and then you could, we'd create, I would go and create a little bit of a formula, like a step-by-step, how am I going to go about doing X, Y, Z? And you go back to the score. Back to last night, in fact, I was watching Undercover Billionaire. Might be a better example. In fact, Grant Cardone was on it. So what is that? I think the premise is that they're going to build $1 million, a business with a $1 million valuation, starting with $100 in a city they don't know, in a place they don't know, with no contacts, and they can't use their own name. In other words, they can't leverage their brand and their experience, right? And they have to do it in 90 days. Well, go to your RAD score, right? Is that rare? big time. Is that awesome and more for a business coach valuable? I'm going to say 10 out of 10, right? Difficulty, right? Again, could others learn or do that? I'd dare say absolutely not. And is it substitutable? Look, might be substitutable because maybe there's the Shark Tank and then there's the profit, if that's your shtick. But I don't know, substitutable. I don't know anybody else that is going and building these, $1 million businesses from scratch in 90 days, right? So, and then like Shark Tank, same thing. You go and put that through the RAD score, and I think you're going to find that you've got a, pretty, they're doing, look, you're not going to get that many celebrities and that many folks worth, let's say they're 250 million, is like on the low end. And of course, Cuban's a billionaire, et cetera. Like you're just not going to be able to reproduce that. So the substitutable nature of it, difficulty, valuable, whether you see, I would say, like for me, Undercover Billionaire is significantly more valuable than Shark Tank. But at the end of the day, you go to that score. So when we put together that event, and I'm, again, we're knocking it together and how are we going to pull this off? And of course, if I just bring all the speakers and let's say that they were all, social media gurus, or they were all, like Marshall Silver's one of the top hypnotists in the entire world. He's been on Howard Stern, David Letterman, shows in Vegas, etc. Right? Like if all the clients were hypnotists, this wouldn't have the same, there would be like that would be step number 2, but the valuable nature of it at some stage, you'd be like, okay, well, we heard the other guys talking about this, right? So that's really, if you're going to put something like that together, it goes without saying that you want to do a great job. But I feel like if you've got a formula, something like RADS that you can kind of follow, and again, make it rare, awesome, difficult, and substitutable, or, not substitutable, the value there is absolutely crazy. So anyways, that's, I guess the takeaway when I sit there and I look at it, and you were to press me, I'd go, well, that's really, the reason that others, like someone else can go and put together a business coaching mastery type event and get some speakers. But the question is, are they going to be able to put together the level? And then, by the way, if you're one of our clients and you're using our profit acceleration software and using the membership sites and the books that we provide you and whatnot and turn you into authors, like all of the speakers are using the exact same tools, which again makes it impossible to substitute. You could go to somebody else's, but they might be using tools and have they'll be using a different system, right? So anyways, and then, so let's talk about your clients' businesses as well. Again, are they going to be successful? Also, you could put them through that same RADS, RADS, right? Put them through that same meat grinder and be able to determine how successful they're going to be. Again, like we create software. One of the reasons why we create software is I know that it's going to keep everybody away because A, they're never going to be as committed to us, and B, if they don't have 7 figures, they're just not going to be able to do it. And not to mention 2 years to work on it and the team. So anyways, Road Dog, big takeaway. There were a ton of them. But if you want to put together a killer event, I would encourage you to be thinking along those lines, and also, stuff like social media posts, etc. So that's my answer, bud. What do you think?
Well, I think it's funny that you named your acronym basically after your favorite movie.
RAD. The BMX movie RAD was filmed in my high school. That dead set. There you go. I was almost in it, but I wasn't. But hey.
It always comes full circle with you, bud. Like, that's the beauty. You're just a simple guy who likes to run his BMX bike.
Actually, I don't think we might have mentioned this before, but dead set. So Crew, the guy who plays Crew Jones in the movie, I think his name's Bill. I can't think of his last. I think his actual name might be Bill Jones, actually. But his name's Bill. And he actually, he sent me a thing on Twitter, and he said, stay rad. And I got it through a buddy, Justin Fears, anyway, so there you go. So the Crew Jones has personally said hello to me. Here's my claim to fame, Shoots. Very proud of myself.
That's, I think you need to aspire a little bit higher than that.
Possibly.
By the way, when you're figuring out your RADS score, don't kid yourself. Carl was using a calculator that entire time. Like him adding 4 numbers, dividing. Come on. Let's not myself. Hey, speaking of rads, this kind of could tie into the next question, because the next question is best way to use social media to get coaching clients. So is there anything above and beyond sort of that formula? Is there any other sort of recommendations that you would have?
Okay, so how do you get clients on social media? Look, yes, look, the real question is, does the social media work is the question, and you've seen it 1,000 times, right, Road Dog? Like that's the underlying, and make sure, don't mistake engagements with clients, money, and income for your business coaching, right? Like, shares and engagement and all that stuff. You don't take that stuff to the bank. People confuse being busy with being successful all the time, right? So, social media, well, I just said, so Rads, you want to factor that in. You go and put a post up. You want to know if it's going to get engagement. You run it through that meat grinder, and you'll have a good indication, excellent indication before you put it up as to how it's going to land. But as far as a step-by-step process, look, number one, you need a great profile that answers, think Q&A. What are the questions that they have, and what are the desires that they have, right? Like, my clients are looking to build 6-figure coaching businesses, and their challenges are 1, lead generation, 2, conversion of high-end coaching clients, and 3, retention of those coaching clients, right? So by knowing my market really well, it makes it really easy for me to, create images and, ads and, videos and that sort of stuff. So number one, you got to have a killer profile with pics and visuals that are fundamentally either answering the question that they've already got, or putting in front of them what it is that they desire, like a multiple six-figure coaching business. Number two, you got to research you got to research business owners and key influencers that you want to connect with, right? So number three, after you research them, you got to friend and connect them. And number four, you got to actively engage. So in other words, you need to be putting valuable content out there, but also if they put a, photo of their family, or they put a photo up about, a testimonial from their client, what have you, you need to engage in that stuff, right? So you got to get that. And then step number 5, you actually have to reach out, most people, and what a lot of people do is that they go, they leave step number 4 of engagement out, and then they just reach out and annoy everybody and go, oh, of course it doesn't work. No, there's a process there. So I don't know, social media, does it get coaching clients? The answer is absolutely. But very importantly, your job is to take them from social media to a phone call or a minimum appointment, right? Which logically would be a phone call first, and then maybe a 1-to-1 face-to-face, or 1-to-1 longer over the phone. Make sure you've got that sales process and that step-by-step, the step-by-step process of, for your coaching business, right? Don't try to sell too early is what I'm getting at. So, pull them from social media to a phone call. What I'm trying to say is, don't try sell them coaching through a private message on Facebook. That's just ridiculous, right? Not going to work. And then of course somebody will give me an example of one time that it worked. We don't deal with anomalies, right? Like the 1 in 1,000. It's not what we're doing. We're not here buying lottery tickets. So anyway, so social media, yeah, it works, but also, if the goal is to take them from social media to the phone, my other question is, if you run it through a model, is there an easier way to get there, right? And I will tell you that social media is not for the faint of heart, or more to the point, if you're an instant gratification guy or gal, and you're, trying to, you want things to happen yesterday, social media is going to be a tough place for you to operate. And yes, there are anomalies and they do happen, but there's a lot easier ways to do it, which would be, picking up the phone and then solving somebody's problem and then seeing where it goes from there. But bottom line, Road Dog, create a really good profile, research people that you want to connect with, actually connect with them. 4 is actively engage and provide value to those folks. And number 5, reach out. And maybe just a little star, which I always say, but it's so important. Remember, people want to be educated, but they also want to be entertained. So if you can be a little bit entertaining in the process, like when you flip through your Facebook feed, you spend a lot of time on the entertaining type stuff, right? So if you can combine education with entertainment, you'll be doing real well. But there you go, Road Dog. That's what I'd say, bud. What do you think?
Well, as I've heard lots before, do you want to be popular or do you want to be profitable, right? I think that's a key distinction there as well. And a lot of people are just trying to be popular, and unfortunately, those other people aren't putting money in their bank accounts. So now, speaking of social and all that sort of stuff, I got an interesting question here because, as we know, in the business coaching space, there's a lot of people that just want people to just do it for them. So the question here, everybody wants done for you. How do I combat that? Like, I think that's very interesting. I'm really curious your thoughts on that because it seems to be a very hot sort of topic right now.
Totally. Look, it's the equivalent. When you go to buy a car, what's the first question you ask? How much, right? When you buy the car, is that the question you're really asking? And no, it's always you unless you're driving a $1,000 car, you did not buy it on price. Right? And nor did anybody else that you know, including your kids, right? And the car that you bought for your kids. So done for you, it's the same thing. So what's your job? You have to educate them. You got to become the educator. Everybody loves the educator. Become that guy or gal. And again, I understand that's what, like, yeah, look, they all say that. You go to the personal trainer. And sure, if I could hire a personal trainer and get him to jump on the treadmill for me and lift up the weights for me, like, sign me up, right? But so this is where, like, this is why webinars work so well. Live events definitely work so well. Books, reports. You've really got to have you've really got to have an educational step in your sales process. And if you don't, I don't need to meet you to know that you're highly, highly frustrated, but and if you want to sell, like, let's assume that you've got $1,000 a month coaching clients, like 12 grand a year, and you want to get to 3 grand a month, $36,000 a year, education is going to be the gap between going from 1 to 3,000. Like on the event that we had on the weekend, one of our guys, like his, at a low end, $60,000 is on the lowest end that he will even start his pricing structure. In a very unique and interesting way of selling it, which I got to tell you, kind of had my jaw drop a little bit where I went, ooh, that's very, very clever. But if you're going to do that, you're going to get the $60,000. You need to understand there would need to be a level of education. And of course, conveniently, guess what? I built software for that exact reason, to look after pretty much all of the Q&A process. And then it populates a roadmap, and it's got 497 weighted algorithmic sequences that it rips a business through. But the bottom line is that education is the gap. But they think that they want done for them, but they really don't. It's just otherwise and you're again, it's the personal trainer growing instead of you, right? It's ridiculous. And now for anybody listening, and there'll be lots of them, for operators that want to be like, they are the done for you guy. And they're like, like, I just do it all for my clients. Done for you. Listen to this one. Done for you is a race to the bottom. Okay. And the bottom being zero, as in free. Okay. So if you're the done for you guy, or gal, you are basically I hope you don't like making money, because every year, every month, every quarter, every 2, 3, 4 years, you're going to earn less and less and less and less. And then if you're wondering why, just look at all the services out there where, like, if I'm going to outsource something, where do I go? I go straight to countries like India. Why? Because they're willing to do it so much cheaper. That's where all this stuff goes. And if you think of artificial intelligence and where it's going, that's only going to accelerate. So you got to call. So again, for the person listening and thinking, I want to, I like doing the done for you stuff, which is fine. And there can be a hybrid in there, where you're doing some stuff, but as long as you're just, you're going to work real hard and not make a lot of dough in the future, if you're the done for you operator. So I'd be very, from a different, answering that a little bit differently, Road Dog, but I want to make sure that, everybody hears that done for you does not scale. The end.
Well, what's interesting, Karl, as well, is because you see it all over the place, right? One of the big things for me, when it comes to coaching my clients on social media, is you see a lot of people just say, I just want someone just to do all my posts for me. And I'm like, why would you ever outsource your message for your business to somebody that really knows nothing about you or why you're doing it? And that's when you have like like realtors are the worst for this, right? Like they have all these cheesy, organic, like lame posts, like on your RAD score that'd be like a -6. You know what I mean? Like it just, you can't, there's certain things that you should never outsource unless you have the right staff to handle it. But anyways, now speaking of, I can't wait to hear your thoughts on this because I absolutely love Clubhouse. For those of you that do not know Clubhouse, Clubhouse is an app that's blowing up, iOS only. So sorry, Android folks, time for you to go into the orchard. But I love the app, and I've got my thoughts on it. But I'm curious what your thoughts are, because you and technology and change sometimes you're good, but sometimes you're reluctant. So I can't wait to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah. So what do I think of Clubhouse? Look, I think the world went from cat videos to crypto censorship in Clubhouse. That's what I think. When I look at my Facebook feed, oh, Lordy, shake your head. But look, you got to look mental models. Okay, slow down and think. In fact, I sent an email literally today a little bit about it. Got a little bit of abuse over the last couple of days, but whatever. It's the way she goes in the world we live in. Mental models. Slow down and think, right? Like, is this a shiny object? Like, if you go through your 80-20, right, is Clubhouse going to be in the 20 that's going to provide you the 80? And of actually, and then will it be? And are you going to be dedicated? Like, as you know, Clubhouse, it's an audio platform, and it has traction big time. As you just said, Road Dog, you love it, and a lot of others feel the same way. In fact, we actually had a presentation, literally 1 hour on Clubhouse on the weekend, as you know, right? So, look, the issue that it's not the issue, but the caution that I have is that it's like the radio. So if I'm not there and you're not there, there's no interaction, right? So, like, do I want to be a talking head on a radio for 4 hours, getting paid by the hour? The answer is absolutely no. I can't capture anything. Versus if I take the same time, energy, and put it into a podcast or a YouTube video, you could be listening this 3 years from now, right? It's being obviously recorded in real time, but it could be, years from now that you're listening to it, and not to mention sharing it, recommending it. So it's leverage, right? Well, look, the definition of leverage: do it once, get paid forever, right? So if I create a podcast, I can leverage it forever. If I create an audio training, I can use it forever. If I write a book, I write it once and I can get paid on it forever, right? Imagine like Think and Grow Rich, right? Richest Man in Babylon, The Intelligent Investor. If these things weren't captured, the authors are long since gone, and we're still learning and, talking about them now. So here's what I would do. So that's bottom line is I would use a mental model before I got on anything like, Clubhouse or any other, Snapchat or TikTok or whatever. I'm on none of them. Because again, I take my time and I put it where, you know what I mean? That's just my shtick, right? I do less. So here's what I would do if I were to get on Clubhouse, which, by the way, I have a profile on Clubhouse. I just haven't looked at it. So build an audience, right? Because it's the place to be. This is what Gary Vee, if he was here, this is what he would say. Will it last or will it not? I got no idea. Is it hot? Yes. Are there eyeballs and ears? Yes. Then I need to be there. Because remember, like Zuckerberg, does it help? In fact, I think he's changed a little bit now, and he's not the most popular guy right now, but whatever. If it does it help us grow? Is Zuckerberg's North Star? And if the answer to that is yes, then he would consider it and potentially implement it and create it. If the answer is no, thank you, right? So Gary Vee's question is, does it get me attention? And if the answer is yes, it gets him attention, then he's going to be all over it. Does it get him eyeballs? So right now, Clubhouse would get eyeballs. So here's what I would do. I would get on there while it's hot. I would build an audience, provided it fit into my 80-20 and it passed my mental model, right? And then I would just accept that I'm going to spend hours on this bad boy, but I'm going to, commit to it. And then I would take them from Clubhouse, off of Clubhouse, onto my own stuff, like I have like, I have 112 roughly thousand subscribers to my email. So every day, 112,000 people get my email. So I would take them from Clubhouse onto my email. So if Clubhouse dies in the ass, which it may or may not do, I've still got my email list. So that's what I would be using it, and again, will it last? The guy who built it doesn't know, Road Dogg doesn't know, I don't know, nobody knows, right? It's like MySpace, right? Like everybody talks about MySpace as like this huge failure and everybody makes fun of it. Tom Anderson sold MySpace for $500 million. So if that's what you call a failure, not too bad. And if you want to know, here's a funny story, a little bit off topic, but I think possibly valuable. Why did Facebook crush MySpace? Zuckerberg is about 1 million times smarter than most people give him credit for. He's the guy who admits that he doesn't know it all. When he gets together with a guy like Tom Anderson, he asks questions, shut up, and then listens very intently and then tries to get some more answers, right? So he asked him, and this is out there, by the way, this story is in the public domain big time. He goes, why is MySpace dominating Facebook? And Tom basically said something real simple. You've got one pick and we have loads. And then Facebook created albums immediately after that, went on to crush them, right? And by the way, 2 other inflection points for Facebook, which again, very relevant, and these are both like in the movie. But when he relationship status, and then also tagging friends on pics, that was big part of it going hugely viral. But so just look again, and Zuckerberg, he's the kind of guy who's willing to admit that he is lost, right? Listening, not talking, So like, okay, so Tom Anderson, again, he just the do-it-yourself guy, right? Whereas when you join AA, the number thing you got to do is admit that you are lost. If you're going to have success in AA, you're an alcoholic and you walk in those doors. My dad is I call him the grand poobah of AA, sponsored more men and women than you could ever count. My house when I was growing up was basically alcoholics coming in and out. My dad sponsored them from 9 Ways to Sunday, and he still does to this day. So I know this world very, very well, although I am not an AA, and I actually really love a beer. Not too many of them, by the way. But so I just know that. So you have to completely give yourself to AA. You have to admit that you are lost. My opinion of what I just described is an example of one guy not admitting that he was lost and another guy admitting that he was lost in a conversation, and one going away and being provided a competitive advantage in what might have been a 30-second conversation. I think the power of that is insanity, right? So, Clubhouse, again, is it the right place? I don't know, but I would go at it with a strategy, and I'd be very, very protective of my time. That's what I do, but that's what I got, buddy. That's how I'd answer that. So I don't know. What do you think?
So I'm just going to weigh in just for a sec. So first off, by the way, just released, I saw that people now spend more time per month on TikTok than they do on Facebook, which is pretty fascinating stat that I saw. But when it comes to Clubhouse, yeah, you're right, man. Watch your time. Like that can be a time suck. You have to just think like it's like a podcast. Maybe it's something that when you're driving or whatever, you tune in. It's that as let's use our friend Tony, right? Net time, right? No extra time. So that's when you would do that. The thing that I like about Clubhouse, first off, if you're making less than like $100,000-$200,000, like don't waste your time, unless you're just going there to learn. But you have an opportunity because they were smart. They brought all the big influencers on there first, and you can get pulled up onto their stages and increase your sort of presence, right? That's what I like about it, is being able to do that. Like I'm going to try and hijack a meeting at 11 o'clock today on that, because a buddy of mine's actually hosting a room, and he's got, I'm sure, a few 100,000 followers. So like, why wouldn't I try and get my sort of name up there, right? So but it's tough, in terms of will it be around? Jeez, are you kidding me? Like you're still waiting for Lava Lake to come back. It's just crazy.
But here's where I would not so much push back, but here's what I'd also, so like you said, I'm driving in the car, and I'm going to turn on Clubhouse to listen as I'm going. And okay, so let's just say I'm going to listen to X, because you got to understand, like my part-time job would be educating myself, right? Like on a daily basis, a day does not go by where I do not listen or read or watch, you know what I mean, where I'm not educating myself. I watched Undercover Billionaire last night, and I'm really trying to go like I just, my mind, my reticular activating system, where I'm at is that I'm just trying to learn. So here's my thing. Let's just say Grant Cardone's really popular on Clubhouse, right? So I go there and Grant Cardone is talking for 4 hours. I know that if I go watch a 1 hour skit of Grant Cardone, in 1 hour, if he's only got 1 hour, he ends up giving a lot of his best stuff, right? Whereas if I'm listening to him for 4 hours in passing, I could listen for 1 hour and not really get his best stuff. And again, because my MO is that I'm trying to educate myself. That's what I do, right? So, and that might be different. Your strategy, Road Dog, very different. That's a, influencer strategy, right? Where you're trying to, build up, preeminence and a following and, start rubbing shoulders with some big dogs. So that's a different strategy, but that's my take on it. If I'm going to listen to him for 4 hours, it's a good chance the 1 hour that I listen to, and that's all I got, I'm not going to get my magic. Whereas if I go listen to his, let's say he had a 1 hour TED, like if you listen to Tony Robbins' 1 hour TED talk, it's freaking amazing, right? Like the end, mic drop, or anybody else's 1 hour TED talk. The stuff that you can pull from that and just blow you away. So this is where I'd be spending my 1 hour, and that's my thing. But my MO is different than others. So there you go.
Fair enough. Do you know the name Justin Guarini? He was the runner-up from the very first American Idol.
What's his name?
Justin Guarini.
No, I don't know.
No. Yeah, that's
big hair. The big hair guy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was living in Australia then, but yeah. I lost to Kelly Clarkson, right?
Yep. He's sort of a buddy of mine, so I'm gonna obviously he's got a pretty big audience to draw from, so I'm gonna just go in there and just raise my hand. So
there we go.
Got to be strategic, my friend. Now, speaking
of
strategic,
let him know the movie Rad was filmed in my high school shoots. That'll get him on the phone for you.
I'm sure he'll be very impressed. You know what? We all are, but like, it's what I don't think they factored in when they were filming that movie was how much that was going to catapult your career and your life. I
know.
It's huge.
Monstrous.
So, speaking of efficiency, and we're running low on time, but I love this question because I know it's going to take you 15 minutes to describe a 3-minute question.
What?
3 minutes with a business owner, how would you sell them coaching?
Oh, wow. Okay. What is it? If I had 3 minutes, what?
How would you sell a business owner coaching?
Okay. Okay. If I had 3 minutes, I would not sell anybody anything. What I would do is before I got to that moment, I would have myself a sales process, and those 3 minutes, right? Hopefully you could, if you're entertaining, you might manage to get 5 or 6, but, you got to have a next step, right? So I don't sell them anything. I just sell them into the next step, right? And then how do you do that? Look, definitely having templated stories. Remember, we got to operate as politicians. No matter what question they ask, they end up getting the answer that they want to provide you, right? So like as an example, like with our coaches, and if you were a client of ours, we train you on how to find any business owner $100,000 in 45 minutes without spending $1 on marketing or advertising. That would be spit out with 100% certainty, take you like 7 seconds, right? I would back that up with, again, we've got it's backed up with software, and our software has 497 million weighted algorithmic sequences that we rip your business through. And that's what populates the roadmap that you can then go and basically walk step by step through to realize your $100,000. I would have like another more tangible example that would go with that. And again, every situation is going to be a little bit unique. Like as an example, do you two know each other, or had you, were you in like a business forum, or are you at like a Christmas party where it just happens to be that you met a chiropractor? Do you know what I mean? Like all these dynamics would factor into it. So again, you got to use your spidey senses a little bit. But again, I would want to have an example that I would back up. So like a really good one that I would use is that, so as an example, is working with a business, they made $100,000 of profit last year and they had 20% margins. Well, real simple, without hiring anybody, without advertising on Facebook, without making a sale, basically I sat down, had a look at their business. It took me about 7 seconds and one spreadsheet. And I was able to find it. We were able to take their margins from 20 to 30%. Not really hard, right? To the average eye, when I go from, $100,000 profit, 20% margins to 30%, that appears to be a 10% increase. And then I kind of stop, pause, let them digest that. And then I go, see, but that's not what happened. It's not a $10,000 improvement. When you go from 20 to 30, most people don't really understand math or business math. And really what you've got is that's a 50% increase. So when you go from when you have $100,000 profit and I take your margins from 20 to 30%, that's $50,000. So basically this guy had earned, 24 months of my fees in the first meeting when we were sitting with them. Something I'd say that a little more dynamically, but that would be an example of a story that would come out, right? And then, but very importantly, I'd spit that out. And then my goal is to get them to the next step. So my question is, what is your next step, right? So I always did live events. So if I'm speaking to this individual, I would be letting them know that, I'm running a marketing boot camp at the chamber on this date. And if he'd like to come, he could be my guest, right? But and that good story too, like stories again. So maybe if I've only got a short period of time with somebody, again, I got to make sure that I'm pulling out my stories. In fact, Road Dog, you and I on the pre-show today, we were talking to a few of our guys about this, right? But it's like, my big brother committed suicide when I was 16 years old over a business failing, right? I'm going to tell you that when you spit out a story, and of course it has to be authentic and real, but like when you go to your story and bring that out, you'll be amazed at the rapport that gets built. So what I'm trying to answer and say in a different way, if I've only got 3 minutes with this guy, that means that I've got a very short period of time to build rapport, and being cautious of bringing, too traumatic and big stories like that out too early. I got to rely on your spidey senses there and the dynamic of the conversation, and whatnot. So be careful with that one, but you've got to have it. But more to the point, I would just say to anybody listening, I can almost guarantee that you don't have a story, anything like that. And more to the point, you don't think that you have a story, anything like that. The reason you don't is because you've just never explored it. You don't realize, like, very few people, if you line up 100 people, very few are not going to have massive trauma in their life. The thing is, they just haven't gone there. And so it was so long ago, they don't really go there. They don't realize how it's shaped them to such a ridiculously, large degree. So I'd encourage you, like in my own life, I've got so many different stories that I could take and that I could carve, into, kind of like my, my foundational story. After my big brother committed suicide, my mother drank herself to death right in front of me. And by the way, she didn't drink while I was growing up. And I watched this. You ever been 16, 17, 18, pubes, girlfriends, high school, and all the rest. I mean, this is not a lot of fun. My mom, we were also living like in a small condo. We had banks and creditors calling nonstop. My mom's car was literally being repossessed. Swear to God, like she had to park it, 3 streets over, right? They're coming and they're looking for the car and she knows it. And she's got to, in the snow, we're living in Calgary at that stage, Calgary, Alberta, very cold in Canada, right? 2 feet of snow. And my mom's walking in her high heels, going to get her, going to get the car. So just again, where are those stories? What are some of the things that you've done? Like, my wife and I, like on our anniversary, we used to do like called the paper bag project. So we have fed thousands of homeless people on our anniversary, December 27th. We did it for years. The only reason we don't do it anymore is we do something different. But where we live, we don't have the same home. We live in a small city now, where there's not really a homeless population. It'd be a bit weird, right? So basically, but that's something I did. And of course, I bankrolled the whole thing, and that's not important. But what it does say is that I was not just feeding, homeless people and inviting my neighbors and all of their kids. Like we'd go down there, we'd video it, and we had a whole, crew of folks. And to this day, when I speak to my friends that I've, haven't spoken to in 3 or 4 years, they'll inevitably talk about how, we used to go down to Hastings and how amazing it was and how much, we loved it. We'd all wear Santa hats, etc. So, and then also, so anyway, so you want to go to like, what sort of stories do you have? Right. And by the way you're going to come to these, you're not going to just magically think about this for 5 seconds and have it come to you. Time to think, pen, paper, room by yourself, no phone, no getting up and taking a piss, no drinking water, just you, a notepad, a piece of paper. You sit down and you do nothing. You've got, what is my origin story? What is my traumatic story? Why do I do what I do? Like, you come up with your own question, but you start answering it and you'll be blown away at the, basically, oh my God, like things that you've never even thought of, things that you didn't think about, getting beat up in high school and the bully and just, the breakup and whatever it was, the near car accident, the witness of a car accident, that sort of stuff. You'll be amazed. You really will. And then, so that's kind of going to a place, those will build rapport very, very quickly, right? So it's important. You only got 3 minutes. You got to do it quick. Another thing very important is that people, if you line up 100 people and you say, what are most people driven by? And I press them a little bit, they will say greed, right? Most people are driven by selfishness and effectively greed, right? That is untrue. The world is driven by envy by a lot, right? A lot. How is that relevant? So part of with your story, and you don't start here, but this can be where you end up, but you want to be able to show them that, again, you've had a traumatic past and you've had a lot of things that you've come through. And my gosh, if I could do it, anybody could do it, right? But then also having stories that talk about success, right? Like I remember I had $327,000 hit my bank account in one day. I can also tell you comfortably that was an experience of, that Tony Robbins talks about, quote unquote, is this all there is? Is that all there is? Right? It was a very anticlimactic feeling. But at the end of the day, so I've had that experience. I franchised my own company when I was 33. I went for a ride with a buddy in his Lotus and I literally bought it off him the next day because I couldn't live without it. You know what I mean? Just different stories like that would make people envious. Playing hockey in the national and world championships and having the honor of, wearing, Team Canada jersey and listening to the national anthem after you've beat a national, a country at Worlds. Kind of cool. So those would be an examples of stories where you could talk about, or more to the point where I was working with a client and here's what we did. I started off really poorly with my business coaching, and then I ended up doing $100,000 a month. And I remember the first month when that happened. Or I was helping a client and this is where they got to. So basically, you also, like envy, it's like painting a picture of helping them know that you have been where they ultimately are trying to get to, right? So when you connect these dots, it could be a really, really good thing. But do understand this. As I look, envy, the world is driven by envy. That's non-negotiable, mic drop. That's not me. These are just, research it. But trauma moves adults. That's important. So if you want to move somebody, you want to get them to do something, trauma is the way to do it, right? A real simple example is, somebody getting diagnosed with lung cancer and magically that 40-year smoking habit goes by the wayside, right? Trauma moves adults. So getting good at, mustering up trauma and then framing your trauma in a powerful way, very good thing, and something I'd recommend as a business coach looking to, really crush it. And not to mention actually move yourself. Like you don't do this in a, fancy way or, in a bullshit way. You do this in a legit, like this is how you do it. Right. But being able to move them, trauma is going to do it. So like if I'm sitting with when I'm sitting with a business, like back in the day, I'm sitting with a business, like a small business owner, the chiropractor, the dentist, the butcher, baker, candlestick maker, with not ridiculous predictability, but with consistency, including the alpha male and the big roided up kind of looking guy. I would move them to tears. Very common. And then how do you do that? It's just like you dig up the trauma by one question. Why? So somebody says, I really want to build this business. Why? Well, and then they say, my kids. And I'm like, well, why? And if you, like I just tell you, this isn't my formula. This is out there in the personal development world, might be Tony Robbins, whoever. But if you give me an answer and I ask you why 7 times, we get to the real answer. Okay. And it's going to be some semblance of happiness and freedom. There's going to be that. That's why you do what you do. You want happiness. You want freedom. I do. Road Dogg does. You do. Everybody does. Right. So So you go deep. So that's the way. If I want to get you to tears, I'll just ask you why 7 times, and there's a really, really, really good chance I get you there. And now I'm not doing it because I want to put you to tears, and I'm not doing it because I want to close you as a coaching client. I'm doing it because I want to move you, right? Like, you're not hiring me, and I'm not here because for my good looks, right? I'm here because my job is to, take one foot and put it in front of the other. And before I got here, you weren't doing it. You're playing solitaire on your phone and you're farting around. So I want to make sure that all of this, like, if I want to build rapport with somebody in 3 minutes, I'm going to tell them a story. And the way that I come up with my story is I go to these places. But ultimately, the goal is that if I can move them and I can make them act, the power that I have, the money that I can earn, the way that I can build my coaching company, the referrals that I will get are just ridiculous. So let's just make sure, as I'm answering all these questions, I always want to go back to the end result, which is your 6-figure, multiple 6-figure. And if you want to be a unicorn, well, if you work with us, if you're a unicorn, you make 7 figures, right? They don't all do, but plenty of them get there. And it's not that's the rarity, by the way, that's the exception, not the rule. But that being said, we can absolutely get you there. But how are we going to get you there? These are little tricks of the trade, right? But very ethical ones, because ultimately, again, when I say why 7 times and I put you into tears and you actually do something, I didn't do something to you. I just did something for you, right? So I think that there's power in that. So bottom line, I got 3 minutes with you. There would be templated stories that I would go to. I wouldn't be making it up as I was go. Most coaches don't take the time to go in front of the mirror and practice this, which is a huge error. But basically that's what I do. And I want to leave with trauma moves people. Let's say adults, not so much kids, but trauma moves adults. You want to move people, take them to trauma. So there you go, Road Dog. That help?
Sure does. Would you, I almost think that this should be the one thing, but what do you think is the one thing from today's show that people can take away and start working on today?
Well, look, trauma, I think that trauma moves. I think you're right. That's powerful. But I think that RAD score also, just again, you're trying to work out, is something going to work? You want to create a YouTube video. Here's my question. Run it through the RADS test and I'll be able to tell you what kind of impact it's going to have, right? Like, you're just going to talk about goal setting and the reticular activating system. Do that in my freaking sleep, right? I know I just, I can start right now, turn my phone on, talk, upload it to YouTube, and that's step number 4, right? Is it substitutable? Very. So you kind of, that RAD score, I think that there's huge, huge power in that. And then remember the example that I gave, Undercover Billionaire. That is an example of a TV show that's doing very well. I guarantee that is going to do very well. It's in its 2nd season, which tells you that it did well. I can tell you that I've got it recorded. I watched the 1st season. As soon as the 2nd season started, I was right there watching. So that's huge power in that. So there you go. And by the way, and I think maybe, so what is RADS? You don't have to go back. Rare, awesome / valuable. 3 is difficult. 4, the S is substitutable, right? So is it rare? Is it awesome? Is it difficult? And is it substitutable? And that'll give you a good indication as to whether something's going to work or not. What do you think, bud?
Beauty. Love it. Well, everybody, I can't believe that's another episode in the books, man. That's crazy. Thanks for tuning in to another great episode of Business Coaching Secrets with the man on top of the hill, my boy King Karl. And again, if you're not on the inside and getting access to the pre-show, or you aren't getting Karl's daily emails, or just want more information on how to build your coaching company, visit focused.com and subscribe today. Also, if you enjoyed the podcast, please share with a fellow coach or someone that you think would make a fantastic coach. And of course, as always, we'd appreciate it if you'd rate this episode, as we know that iTunes, Spotify, and the like give an insane amount of weight towards reviews. So please leave us a review if you like what you heard. And that is it for another week, everybody. Excited to see you in the next episode. But remember, folks, progress equals happiness. Take care, everybody.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at Focused.com.